Hi peoples, I am Tiago Silvestre, the host of this channel, and today we will talk about how water is good and you should drink water. Just kidding. Today we will be talking about commanders that change the game when entering the battlefield. So when you see across the board a commander like this one on the list that I will show you, you will see that the game will be very different. You will see that when that commander enters the battlefield, the game will change. And let's check it out the list. Before we start the list, I have an honorable mention, and it is Zedru, the Great-Hearted. And for 4 mana, 2/4 legendary creature that says that at the beginning of your upkeep you gain X life and draw X cards, where X is the number of permanents you own but are in control of your opponents. And you can pay red, white and blue, and target opponent gains control of a permanent you control. So this deck is filled of weird creatures and weird enchantments that they will give to their opponents. So their opponents will end up with permanents that doesn't benefit them, and they will benefit by gaining life and drawing cards at the beginning of their turn. And starting the list, I have a weird creature for 5 mana and mono green, 10/8 legendary creature. 5 mana, 10/8, it's weird. But it says that other creatures have, whenever this creature attacks, you may have it fight Grothama. So your creatures, besides Grothama, and all of your opponent creatures can fight Grothama before they attack other players. But Grothama has another ability that says when Grothama leaves the battlefield, each player draws cards equal to the amount of damage dealt to Grothama this turn by sources they controlled. So you can draw many cards by fighting Grothama and make it leave the battlefield. But your opponents can do it too. So every combat phase will be different because you have the option, and your opponents will have the option, to fight Grothama and kill it or bounce it, for example, and to draw some cards. And there could be a situation where more than one player will draw cards. This deck normally have some dead touch cards and some protective spells for your opponent don't draw too much cards. But it will be different, the game. Every combat phase will be different. Well, the next one is a commander that I don't like, but should be in this list, and it is Okori, Dust Drinker. So for 4 mana in mono white, you have a 2/2 that says that lands don't untap during their controller's untap step. So lands won't untap at all, and at the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player untaps a land he or she controls. So each player on their upkeep will untap only one land. So this game will take very long. It's not a fun commander at all. And you can see why the game will be different when this commander is on the battlefield, because the game will be very slow. I don't like this one, but it changes the game. Well, the next commander is the opposite, so it's Canaios and Tyro of Meletis. This commander, it's almost all colors, only missing the black color. For 4 mana, it's a 2/8 and says at the beginning of your end step you draw one card. Each player may put a land from his or her hand on the battlefield, then each opponent who didn't draw a card. So at the end of your turn you will draw a card, and every player will have a chance to put a land on the battlefield or to draw a card. So you are on advantage because you draw a card and you can draw another, or you draw a card and you can put a land on the battlefield. But this will ramp the game very fast. Your game will be much quicker. It's nice because the game will end up quicker and you can play another game. But it changes the game. Some decks are not prepared to play the game that many fast, and other decks, are prepared and already are ramping and will benefit double ramping, if you wanna say it that way. So this commander will change the game, not like the previous one, but this will change in a good way, at least for me. The next one is another commander that it's not a fun one, at least for me. It's Braid's Cabal Minion. So for 4 mana it's a 2/2, but at the beginning of each player's upkeep that player sacrifices an artifact, creature or land. So at the beginning of each player's turn you have to sacrifice, well, you will not sacrifice a land, so you will sacrifice an artifact or creature. So you will have to be destroying this commander, or you will have to have more than one creature or artifact entering the battlefield to keep up with the sacrifice that you have to do each of the beginning of your turns. So each player will have to do that, but their deck will be prepared for this, and your deck probably will not be prepared for this. So I don't like very much this commander, but it changes the game. The next one, it's a Braids too. It's Braids Conjurer Adept. So this is more a fun one than the previous one, and this is on blue with 4 mana. You have a 2/2 that says at the beginning of each player's upkeep that player may put an artifact, creature or land onto the battlefield from your hand. So instead of sacrificing like the previous one, this time you can ramp, you can put artifacts and you can put creatures. So like I showed you on the commander before, this commander will ramp you. This commander will put powerful creatures and powerful artifacts already on the battlefield soon on the game. And of course this deck will be more prepared than yours, but you also can take advantage of on turn 5 have 10 converted mana cost creature, for example. You can put it on the battlefield directly, or an Eldrazi or whatever you have on your hand, you can put it right away. So everybody has the chance to ramp, to play some creatures or play some artifacts. So this Braids is more fun one than the previous one. And it changes the game because when this creature enters the battlefield, you can put cards that you shouldn't put on that turn, for example, or you can ramp much faster than you should. So this commander changes the game. The next commander is in mono black, and it definitely is changing the game because you can tutor every time. So it's Marlan of the Morn Song. So for 3 mana you have a 2/3 creature that says that players can't draw cards, and at the beginning of each player's draw step that player loses 3 life. Search his library for a card and put it on their hand. So you have a creature that doesn't allow drawing any cards, not the card that you draw at the beginning of turn, and not any spell that make you draw cards. You don't draw any cards. And what you have is that on the beginning of each player's turn, you will lose 3 lives and you will find the card that you need. So when this commander is on the battlefield, the game can be very short. You can have a quick game because you can find pieces of combo, for example, or you can end up with a long game because everybody has answers to another thing that your opponent is doing, and probably will take too long because you can find something to counter or something to destroy, and it will be very different playing with this commander. And the next one is Ruhan of the Formi. So for 4 mana it's a 7/7 that says that at the beginning of combat on your turn, choose an opponent at random, and Ruhan attacks that player if able. So with a 4 mana you have a 7/7, but you will not choose an opponent to attack. You will have to attack, but you will not choose to attack a certain player. It will be chosen at random, and this deck will have protection for this commander and will have equipments and enchantments on this Ruhan. So it will have swords, it will have protection, it will be bigger. So it could be very difficult in a game, because if at random you are chosen at random twice, this game could be over for you in 2 turns. So this commander changes the game. The next commander is Gadok Tig. So for 2 mana, Astelesnia colors, you have a 2/2 creature that says that non-creature spells with converted mana cost 4 or greater can't be cast, and non-creature spells with X in their mana cost can't be cast. So you will screw up with this commander, you will screw up some decks, because there are decks that the non-creature spells are without an X cost or are lower than 4 converted mana cost, but like the other decks that have spells that cost 4 or more will be screwed. Creature decks will not be affected, but the other decks will be screwed. Even if your deck will not creature focus or not non-creature focused. You always have a board wipe, but you cannot play it. You will always have some kind of powerful artifact or powerful enchantment that costs more than 4, and you won't be able to play it. So this changes the game because you have to destroy this card to play that spells that cost 4 or more or cost X, or you won't play it at all. So this commander changes the game. And the next one on the list is Tentis, the War Weaver. So for 6 mana you have a 5/5 that has vigilance and reach and makes all creatures attack each combat. And whenever a creature attacks you or a planeswalker you control, you may put a 1/1 counter on Tentis. Not you may, you will put a +1/+1 counter on Tentis. So this makes all creatures attack each combat if able. So like your mana dorks will have to attack and probably will die. So little creatures that you have nice abilities, for example creatures that stacks your opponent, so creatures that search your library for a land, so they will have to attack and you will lose that card. So effects that on ETB does something, well, you already done the effect, but creatures that reveal top of your library and do something, they will have to attack and probably will die. So this commander again changes the game. And the last but not least is Doran, the Siege Tower. So for 3 mana you have a 0/5 that says that each creature assign combat damage equal to his toughness rather than his power. So there are some decks that this effect won't affect the creature because most creatures of some decks may have the same power and toughness, so it won't change too much. But there are some decks that have like a 3/1 or a 7/1 and will be very affected. And the player playing this commander will abuse this, so you will have creatures with low power or 0 power and have like 7 toughness and for 2 or 3 mana and will attack you for a 7 power having only 7 toughness. So this commander probably will change the game too. That's it. This is the list. There are more commanders that I didn't include in this list, but that changed the game too. So if you know any commander of this that I'm talking about that changes the game when they play it, comment down below and let me know which commander are there. And if you like the video, give it a like and please subscribe, and like I said, drink water, and see you on the next one. Bye.